Well, welcome back, everybody. So, this is my Huina 1583 front end loader that I picked up off of eBay. I already did that little mod in the front for some more articulation, but I hadn't actually taken it out and driven it yet until I started building that course in my backyard for the construction site. And that's, well, I noticed that maybe my eBay deal might be as good of an eBay deal as I thought it was. So you'll notice that right now we're turned off, but if I spin the wheels, watch this light, we are creating enough inverse current to go back the other direction, and the motor's acting like a generator. Now watch the front, and also listen to the front. Yeah, we got an issue there. So let me turn this thing on. Power button. There we go. I got the sound off. So if you drive, it looks like everything might be okay, right? You notice the one wheel wobbles a little bit, but if you just lay your finger on it, that's it. I can feel something spinning in there, but only one tire is going. So if you add any pressure, what I'm hoping is it's something as simple as a pinion gear, but I won't know until I get it out and check everything out. It's got there's a lot of gears inside that gearbox. It's geared down very low, and I contacted the seller, and it could have possibly gotten broken in shipping. It wasn't packed very well. It just had literally bubble wrap wrapped around this, bubble wrap wrapped around the two batteries, and bubble wrap wrapped around the radio, and it was thrown in a giant box that was all flopping around. So that might be how I got a little bit of a bent wheel there too. But he said he only drove it one time with his kid, and it's not in bad shape, but I'm having a hard time believing that just for this reason. Now, let's see if you follow me here. If you only drove it one time, why do you have two different blade styles? Because he had this blade and then the regular bucket that came with it, and both of them had scrape marks on the bottom. So, if you only drove it one time, he got a lot of runtime out of that battery, and he switched out attachments during that. And also during that one time, he changed it from your standard connector that comes in this to a little XT30 connector. So I'm not sure I buy the one time, and he took the time to go ahead and put a number on it, so he knew it was number 5. That part might have been a little bit of a lie, but I'm gonna get this opened up and see what's going on. I'd like to get this back in service. That's the whole reason I bought it. Maybe sometimes trying to get a deal isn't a deal. I maybe should have just bought it new. Well, I had to stop for a second, take a couple pictures before I tore it apart any further. There's a lot of pieces in this little guy. I've got it all torn apart, tons of screws, all of our weight and stuff's inside this. I mean, that's the really heavy part, but yeah, they made it difficult to get into this gearbox. Looks like I've got some more exploring to do. I took everything off and took these sides off, and I thought maybe that would give me an easy access point, but I don't know. I might have to separate these bucket arms and stuff out still. Well, learning experience. I'll open up another layer. This thing just keeps peeling open like an onion, and I finally got to the gearbox. So I need to open this guy up and see if I can see what's going on with it. I'll brighten the camera up a bit so you can kind of see what's going on. So this is this half of the gearbox. So this pinion drives this gear here, which in return drives everything in this gearbox, which turns this shaft, which goes over to the other side of the gearbox and runs another side of gears there. Now, if I hold my finger here and spin this, it all seems to be spinning decently. I mean, I'm not feeling any rough spots in the gears. Got a full set of rotations, and it seems to be good. So my other question is this pinion slipping? So I'm gonna put some power to it, and I am gonna hold the pinion gear with a set of pliers, and see if by chance that pinion gear shaft is going to spin inside the pinion gear or not. And if it is, well, then we have another problem, because then I have to figure out how the heck I am going to get that to tighten back down, because I do not believe that has a set screw. Nope. It's just a little baby motor. I know they make like a 370 motor mod for this. I might have to look that up. I have the power on. Other axle's just running crazy. Let me grab this with a pair of needle nose here. If it's going to spin, it should spin inside that fairly easily. And that's exactly what's happening. So, there's our problem. Our pinion gear was just free spinning in there, which that goes on by compression. So, I'm going to have to figure that out. See if I can figure out how to get that to stay in one spot pretty good. Well, let me work on that issue. So here are my thoughts. I've removed the motor the rest of the way, and that's all it is. That's all that little tiny guy is. That's the drive motors. I wanted to do the upgrade, but every time I try to get it to go through, it's overseas. It just doesn't, the transaction don't want to go through, so I'm going to have to mess with that some more. But until I get that up and going, I still want to drive my machine. So here's our pinion gear that came off of it. And you can kind of see there's like a raised lip right there. I'm going to take a little hammer, see if I can ping that back down a little bit, maybe close that up some. And then I'm also going to take maybe a very sharp chisel and go sideways across this motor shaft and try to just add a couple ping marks to that so it has something to grab onto. And then I'm going to force my pinion back on over the motor, hopefully snugly. And I'm going to hit it with some solder. I hope this will get us up and going so we can get this machine back in action until I can start the upgrades. Okay, it was kind of a nervous procedure, but you can see I've got these marks in here now. And I just took a sharp chisel, laid this down in the vise sideways. So this was sticking out past the anvil part of the vise, and then tapped it a little bit with a chisel. It was just kind of hard to record. And then on our little pinion gear, I did basically the same thing. Sorry about it getting blurry. It kind of has a hard time focusing on stuff like this. I pinged all that in a little bit, and now, let's see here. I'll show you. This does not push back down in there. Before it just slid right off. Now it doesn't want to push back down in there. So I'm going to go compress that back on in the vise. And then I'm going to try to make the shaft protrude through the end just a little tiny bit. I'm going to add a little bit of flux, heat it up with a torch, and try to see if it'll soak some solder in there too. And I'm just hoping together with that and the crimping that this pinion will stay on enough to get us back in service. I think we have a winner. It seems to be on there really good. Before, I mean, it just slipped right off. Now I can really yank on it. Add just a little bit of solder to the end. I filed everything back out. It seems to all be rotating smoothly. And even just compression fitting that on before the solder, it seemed like it was really on there snug, especially since that I took a little tiny baby knife blade and set down between these fins and set it on top of the vise and tapped down in there so it kind of crushed this middle of the brass in a little bit. And then I expanded that shaft out some with a chisel and then pressed it back on and then added some flux, heated it up with the torch on the end. That solder sucked right in. So with any luck, that'll take care of our problem. I have to solder these two wires on and put everything back together, and then we'll be able to test it and see if this repair works. Okay, a little bit of bittersweet. It seems to be working fine. I can grab the end, which I can't do while I'm recording with my hand, but I've grabbed the end and I've got all my power there. I've taken this back apart twice to make sure everything lines up, and it does, but it's just noisy for some reason. But, you know, it's this, all the stuff's preset, so it all sets in preset sockets. It's not like I can move it to somewhere different or make any adjustments on our pinion or gapping or anything like that. So that gear noise might have been part of our initial problem. But, you know, it's together. I'm going to run it for what it is, so I'm going to go ahead and put it back together. It might be a lot quieter once it's all back in the casing. We'll find out. Hopefully it holds up. Okay, we'll give it a test. So I'm going to shut this sound off. Now it is, you can hear that gear noise, but my front wheels are now working. So that's how I want to drive that in there pretty hard. So now my front gears are working. We got a loud gear noise going on, but they are working, and that's the important part. And it's enough I can drive up on the loading ramp. Yeah, I was having trouble doing that because, well, when you don't have any front wheel drive, it doesn't want to dig into anything. So I couldn't force it to dig dirt or anything at that point. And now we're digging good with those front wheels. And since that's the main drive on this, that was definitely the most important part. The other part about my construction machinery is everyone has different controls, so you get used to one's controls, and then you have to try to get used to another, because you know, some of them you push up and the bucket goes down, some of them you push down and the bucket goes down, so it's kind of learning how your machinery, each one of your pieces of machinery works. But I'm straining that thing pretty hard and it's holding up, so it may be loud, but it's also working, so I'm going to count that as a victory. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If any of you have had a problem similar to this, hopefully you can reattach your gear and get your machine up and running again too. Alright, I'll see you later.